Hello and welcome to the Queen of Hearts. My name's Danielle, and today I'm here to take you through some information about planetary expression. So I've already mentioned that the placement of a planet in a zodiacal sign is likely to change or modify the planet's expression. So it's a good idea to look at your chart and see what planets are in what signs and to get an understanding of the way that those planets are starting to express themselves. Now remember that planets do have an essential nature, and while that's true, a lot of the time they will not be expressing themselves this way in your charts, okay? Because the zodiacal sign that they're in is going to be very different, and the ruler of that sign is likely to be very different in many cases. So let's do a little bit of revision. Take Mars, for example, as our planet that's connected to decisiveness, action, being assertive. Mars, when it's in its home sign of Aries or Scorpio, tends to, not always, but tends to be good at these things, tends to be able to seize the day and charge forward. Now, what if Mars is in Pisces? How is it going to express itself? So Mars still wants to do Mars-like things and get things done, but it's going to take on a different expression. It's going to probably do it through more of an emotional lens. You know, being in Pisces, which is a cold and wet sign, it's going to be, maybe a little bit more slow to act. You know, it's going to need to put the feelers out, make sure everything feels right before it goes for it. You know, it's also ruled by the planet Jupiter. And so there needs to be an alignment, most likely, between the motivation and the actual meaning to the person to really get them going. So you can see how Mars is going to change its expression based on this placement here. Now, there are a lot of other factors that are likely to change the way a planet expresses itself, and you can take this on board too. Say, for example, you have got Mars in its home sign of Aries, and you think, well, I'm not very quick off the mark. Like, I don't like to fight, or, I'm not very assertive. There is a lot of other factors that can be at play. So remember, you need to take the chart as a whole. And I'm going to explain to you now some additional factors that can change or modify the way a planet expresses itself. So let's take, for example, the idea of an astrological aspect. Okay, so let's just say that Mars is conjoined, or what we would call conjunct, the planet Saturn. So Saturn is, sorry, I've got something in my throat. It's a good one for Saturn, actually, because Saturn's about obstructions. Anyway, Mars likes to be forward, it likes to go forward, but say Mars in Aries is conjoined with Saturn. Now, Saturn is our blocking planet. Saturn can be about things slowing down, putting the brakes on, and so we could have a little bit of a push-pull tendency with this person. Okay, so maybe sometimes they're able to be really forward and, be very decisive, and other times they could second guess themselves and put the brakes on. And so this could be an example of a way that you could see through an aspect that the expression of Mars is modified. Now, the same goes for all different planets in your chart. You need to check the aspects, because any planets that are looking at each other by aspect, whether it's a square, an opposition, a sextile, or a trine, they are going to be having a relationship. They're going to be modifying one another. They're going to be telling a story in your life. So it's important to understand what these aspects mean. Now, another important factor in terms of planetary expression is a planet's relationship to the sun. Now, this is a traditional idea predominantly, and planets that are within 15 degrees were called under the beams, okay, under the beams of the sun. Now, this was actually not a very fortunate place to be. We would prefer planets to be well out of the way of the sun, okay, because the sun, the nature of it is it's hot and dry, it's able to scorch and burn, and it's very much inclined to overwhelming the planets that get close to it, okay? It can make them invisible. Now, if you look at a new moon, when the moon comes to join with the sun, and you look out into the sky of a nighttime, you can't actually see the moon at all, okay? Because it's overwhelmed. It's what we would call combust, Okay, so traditionally speaking, a new moon is actually not an auspicious time. It's a time where there's very low lighting and low visibility. Now, the same goes in charts where we see planets, less than 7 degrees away from the sun. Now, this is not called under the beams. This is actually called combust, like I just mentioned before. Now, planets combust. They can suffer exhaustion. They can suffer a feeling of being overwhelmed, or, outshined by others, in their life. It depends on the planet. It depends on the house that that planet rules as to how this is likely to express itself. There's another traditional indication of things happening in private or things happening in secret when a planet is combust. So a traditional indication was Venus, when she was combust, could indicate secret relationships or getting married in secret. And I've actually met a couple of clients with that story, in their charts when they had Venus combust. Now, there is also a condition which traditional astrologers refer to as a planet being in its chariot. Now, this is supposed to protect the planet from the rays of the sun. So if a planet is in its home sign, which we spoke about before, when we spoke about Mars in Aries, this placement of a planet in its home sign is likely or expected to provide some level of protection from the rays of the sun, okay, because of its planetary strength. Now, I have to say that looking at a lot of client charts, I notice this is not always the case, and I still see signs of combustion and things such as overwhelm or low vitality for some people, even if the planet is in its own sign. So it is going to be better if it is, but still, this is not the kind of close relationship we would like to have with the sun. Okay, this can be quite a problem in charts, and it can change the expression of planets. Now, other things that can change the way that a planet expresses itself, or the speed or direction that a planet expresses itself, firstly includes the speed of the planet. Okay, so especially in horary astrology, we use planetary speed to see how quickly something is going to come together. We might look at the speed of the moon to see if this is going to happen fast, or if the moon is incredibly slow, we might say, add a bit more time on before we see that come together. So we can look at planetary speed, but also planetary direction. Now, planets can move forward, as you obviously know, it's pretty obvious, or they can retrograde. Now, retrograde motion was traditionally not a favorable condition. Okay, it can lead to delays and interruptions in the things that planet signifies. So let's take, for example, Saturn as the 7th house ruler. Now, the 7th house is the house that connects to marriage and relationships. If Saturn is retrograde in the chart, and it's the prime planet that symbolizes union and marriage in the chart, we could infer that marriage is likely to happen later in life, or there could be interruptions and disruptions in marriage. Now, also, it's important to remember that Saturn as the prime planet to describe marriage as a cold, dry planet is not really the most lovey-dovey romantic planet too. So that could be a little bit of a challenging chart. But we, again, need to take everything together and all together, and not take things out of context on their own and make big generalizations. It's very dangerous. As you can see, there are multiple factors involved in modifying the way that planets express themselves. Stay tuned for more. If there's anything in particular you'd like me to explore, comment below, and I will make you a video perhaps on that topic. So all the best. I hope you're keeping well, and I'll be back again soon.